Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Well, have I got a video for you guys today. First of all, I wanted to thank Dodler for XRP for pointing out some of the great information that I'm going to be showing you guys today. It all stemmed from a few resources that he pointed me towards. I believe it was last month now. I had it kind of sitting on the back burner. What we're going to talk about today, guys, is the beer flu pandemic and how it is becoming politicized in order to push ahead this great reset and the possible outlook for a very dismal future. I know that doesn't sound great, but I've been doing my own research as well, and I've been finding more and more evidence that is pointing to this. Now, there is a Ripple and XRP connection to all this, guys. I suppose that is the bright side for us holding XRP. But anyway, without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. So, we have the beer flu pandemic, and I know what you're thinking. There are people out there that are calling it a hoax. Now, it is a real virus, okay? I haven't personally firsthand heard of anybody who has gotten it, but it's evident that a lot of people have recovered from the beer flu and that it's not as serious as they make it out to be. Now, I'm not a medical professional, so I cannot attest to how serious or not serious this is, but a lot of people are suggesting that a lot of the governments around the world are making it out to be more serious than it is, and that it is actually being used as a political tool to push the Great Reset. Now, we've heard this before. Of course, we have seen, this over the last several months. This is from 6 months ago now. The beer flu to wipe out the equivalent of 195 million jobs, says a UN agency. So again, this was back from April. The disruption of the world's economies caused by the beer flu pandemic is expected to wipe out 6.7% of working hours globally in the second quarter of this year, the equivalent of about 195 million jobs worldwide, according to UN's labor body. And this is huge, guys. It's affecting everybody, not just Americans, the entire world. And governments are using this, okay? They are using it as a tool to push their agenda. Now, these are the jobless claims in the United States over the last several months. Jobless claims remain elevated as the recovery stalls. As you guys know, there was a complete shutdown of the economy back in March, and at that point, we saw skyrocketing unemployment, and from then on out, we have seen it decrease. But you guys can see here the level, even though remaining relatively steady, it is way higher than what it was before the lockdown over here back in January, February, and March. So this only goes up until September 2020, but I think you guys get the picture. Jobless claims remain high in the United States. These are just American numbers right now. But not only that, they're remaining high worldwide. And so I have a feeling that a lot of people would agree that the beer flu pandemic, one of the biggest things that it is ruining is the ability for us to get back on track, provide for our families, essentially get the economy up and running again so that, we can pay our rents, our mortgages, buy nice things. Basically, we just want everything to go back to normal. And the governments of the world are using this as a political tool in order to keep us at bay. Now, again, you may believe parts of this, you may believe all of this, you may believe none of this. That's up to you. I'm just bringing you, some schools of thought to think about with regards to this. Again, I am not a medical professional, so I cannot attest to how serious the virus actually is. But what we have heard in the news are some conflicting stories. I saw this from Ian Binns. Australian doctors told to assume a beer flu death on a death certificate if they exhibit certain generic symptoms, even without a diagnosis. And here is apparently a facsimile of a document from what is presumed to be the Australian Medical Authority, where a person is known to have suffered typical symptoms with regards to the beer flu, such as fever, coughs, or breathing difficulties during the beer flu pandemic, but has not been formally tested or diagnosed. Then it is reasonable to assume the death was related to the beer flu and should be recorded on the death certificate. Very interesting. Again, guys, this coming out of Australia, retweeted out by Ian Binns. He retweeted this out on October 22nd, coming originally from Mark Imicides. Dr. Mark Imicides, as that appears to be his Twitter handle. Very, very interesting. Now, I've also heard stories that certain hospitals are actually getting money as well to provide a positive beer flu diagnosis, thus pushing up the numbers. Of course, this is hearsay at the moment. I cannot confirm nor deny these claims, but this isn't the first time I've heard of this. So what does this have to do with the Great Reset? Well, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with this. And if you're not, the narrative goes as such. In Davos this coming January 2021, the World Economic Forum is going to be hosting an event, and one of the central topics there is going to be the Great Reset. Let me just play you this video clip of Klaus Schwab detailing what's going to be happening at the next Davos Forum.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path.
What is it that would make it so that history would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset?
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call.
The world's problems fit on three sides of a triangle. It's one versus many, man versus nature, and the unfortunate foundation is long-term versus short-term.
Any recovery stimulus should have green conditions attached to it.
We have to change our economy dramatically in the next 20 or 30 years, and the next 10 years is absolutely decisive.
The recovery has to be greener than any of the previous recoveries.
And then we need to couple that with new initiatives to equip more people with the digital skills they'll need.
We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
All right, so pardon me, Klaus Schwab was there at the beginning of this clip and at the end of this clip, but it was a compilation of clips from many different people. Prince Charles, we saw the CEO of MasterCard there, Katarina Georgieva of the IMF, and many others basically talking about this Great Reset and how this pandemic is an opportunity to basically reset the world. As you guys can see, they are framing it in a way to let us feel like we are going to be benefiting the greater society by doing this. There are going to be environmental initiatives associated with this as well. So they're all making it sound very positive, very good for everybody. Here's a pandemic and it's a great opportunity for all of us to kind of just, hit that reset button and make everything very, very good for everybody. Not so fast. Here's where we get into it, guys, and it gets pretty scary as I continue moving forward. So you guys saw Klaus Schwab there in the video. This was tweeted out by Paul Belcher on Twitter. Now is the time for the Great Reset of capitalism to achieve equity and sustainability. This coming from the World Economic Forum. And here is an article, Now is the Time for a Great Reset, published originally on June 3rd, 2020. And it was written by Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. I'm not going to read the full thing, but I think you guys get the picture. I'm just going to scroll down here. Read this last statement down here. The beer flu crisis is affecting every facet of people's lives in every corner around the world. But tragedy need not be its only legacy. On the contrary, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world to create a healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous future. This written by Klaus Schwab, guys, and you can find it online. Of course, I link everything in the description of the video, so you can find it in the description of this video. And as you saw in that last clip, he's not the only one. There are many world leaders and heads of important bodies around the world that are on board with this same narrative. How are these guys going to do it? Well, let's just say they'll get some help from their friends in high places. So, guys, I saw this from Ian Northing on Twitter. Don't we just love Bill Gates? Bill Gates on the beer flu, fall will be worse than the summer. This article just came out last month. And Bill Gates predicting that the fall was going to actually be worse than the summer. Now, this is nothing to be too suspicious about. Based on how viruses work, based on human activity and where people tend to congregate in the fall months versus the summer months, it all kind of makes sense. The fact that Bill Gates, though, is the one saying this. I mean, we know Bill Gates from Microsoft. I mean, he is a very intelligent guy. But if you know, and I'm sure you guys do, he's also been dabbling in pandemic education, I suppose. Back in 2015, Bill Gates actually did a TED Talk, and he was talking about the fact that the world is not actually ready for a pandemic. Remember, guys, this was back in 2015, way before any of this was even on any of our radars.
We are particularly committed to this initiative since the Forum has been at the origin in its annual meeting in Davos of the Global Fund, Gavi and CEPI, together with the Gates Foundation and other founders of those crucial organizations, particularly today.
That's right, you heard him. The Gates Foundation. So the World Economic Forum is working together with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is what Klaus Schwab is talking about there, in order to set this in motion. Now it's starting to get a little fishy. I mean, Bill Gates was predicting this back in 2015, and I suppose since he's the expert on virology for whatever reason, the World Economic Forum is going to work with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in order to set this in motion. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I did this video about 5 months ago, and it was a deep dive into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and this project here. Guys, I will link this video in the description, and I'll also actually link it up here. I'll put it up here in the top right-hand corner of this video. If you haven't checked this out yet, it's definitely worth a watch. It gets deeper into the Bill Gates connection with regards to all of this. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, you might want to check that out. So we've got the World Economic Forum working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in order to kind of help set this in motion. And maybe the reason this hasn't happened sooner is because this guy became president of the United States. Guys, this is Donald Trump, and here's what he had to say at the 2020 Davos meeting back in January. The title of this sub-clip here, it was actually posted originally by CNBC television, was President Donald Trump tells world leaders at Davos to put their citizens first. Listen how Trump puts it.
We've also launched the most ambitious campaign in history to reduce job-killing regulations. For every new regulation adopted, we are removing 8 old regulations, which will save an average of American households about $3,100 per year. It was going to be for every one, we do 2, but we were able to lift that to 8, and we think that's going to go quite a bit higher. We still have a way to go. Today, I urge other nations to follow our example and liberate your citizens from the crushing weight of bureaucracy. With that, you have to run your own countries the way you want.
You have to run your own countries the way you want. Sounds like a man that does not want to be part of this global reset. Now, in all fairness, this was taken back in January 2020, before the beer flu really hit the United States hard, although it was already happening in China at this point. We're going to get to that later on in the video. So now the narrative goes as such. Trump is president, and he's getting in the way of this great financial reset. All these bodies, all these governments, all these important powers around the world want to reset the economy, but Donald Trump just wants to do one thing. He wants to make America great, and so he's having none of it. As a matter of fact, here's a clip from George Soros stating that the Trump administration is actually a danger to the world. This was at Davos in 2018. Let me play you guys this.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What? Disappear in 2020 or even sooner? Well, it didn't happen sooner. Was George Soros planning something that we're not privy to?
I give President Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly. But for every core supporter, he has created a greater number of core opponents who are equally strongly motivated. That's why I expect a Democratic landslide in 2018.
So George Soros has a lot of money, has a lot of power, has a lot of clout on the world stage, and he's obviously a proponent of this great reset. George Soros, if you guys do not know, he is a globalist. He actually believes that borders shouldn't exist between countries, that people of the world should just be able to roam freely wherever the heck they want. So you got George Soros, obviously not a fan of Donald Trump, who, wants to make sure that America stays great. He's not signing up. He's not prescribing to this great reset. But you know who does?
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
That's right, you heard it straight from Joe Biden's mouth. create a new world order. Now, this was from several years ago, but guys, a lot of people are suggesting that this plan has been in the works for a while. And President Donald Trump is essentially the thorn in the sides of the powers that be in order to get this done. So there's a lot that's been going on to, push us in the media to get us to believe that this pandemic is affecting everybody equally, and they're already preparing us. My wife just actually showed me this article this morning. So this is just another piece that I recently saw. The post-pandemic new normal looks awfully authoritarian. Less intrusive responses could preserve our health while leaving our freedoms intact. We're told that life is never getting back to normal, so we need to suck it up and accept a world of mask-wearing, economic disruption, and social distancing. It's a denatured echo of the warnings we've heard before that government responses to the beer flu are pushing the world towards authoritarianism, but dressed up as if it's a good thing. That's unfortunate given the less intrusive responses to the pandemic are proving at least as effective as heavy-handed ones, and that's before we even discuss the inherent value of the freedom that looks destined to be pushed aside by public health concerns and the disingenuous government officials. Guys, they have shaped this to make it look like, uh-oh, we're in a pandemic, what are we gonna do? Well, the best thing we can do is reset the economy. This is the narrative that has been pervading. What they are going to do, guys, is they're going to make our new normal so abnormal that we'll be begging for a vaccine for this beer flu. So in that video that I did 5 months ago, I'll show you guys the thumbnail here just to remind you. I talk about Bill Gates, and even today I touched upon the fact that he was already predicting this back in 2015. The fact that a pandemic could hit the world, and this would essentially throw everything up in the air and leave us around the globe with a bunch of question marks, us thinking to ourselves, what the heck is going to happen? Well, did you guys also know that back in 2015, virologist Shi Zhengli also was discussing the fact that a virus could be contracted from a bat to a human? Again, this was back in 2015. You guys just have to Google it. This is just a Google page. I just Googled Shi Zhengli 2015 bat, and you have all these articles that come out. Bat origin of human beer flu. New SARS-like virus can jump directly from bats to humans. A SARS-like cluster of circulating bat beer flu shows, and these articles are all, you guys can see the dates here, all from 2015. So she's been doing research on this at least for the last decade and a half. The idea that a virus can be transmitted from bat to human. And so this article came out. This was published June 2020, How China's Bat Woman Hunted Down Viruses from SARS to the New Beer Flu. Wuhan-based virologist Shi Zhengli has identified dozens of deadly SARS-like viruses in bat caves, and she warns that there are more out there. So you guys can read it. She has been doing this research for a very long time now and has been warning people, and she works in Wuhan, by the way, warning people that this could be a big thing. The mysterious patient samples arrived at the Wuhan Institute of Virology at 7 p.m. on December 30th, 2019. Moments later, Shi Zhengli's cell phone rang. It was her boss, the institute's director. The Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention had detected a novel beer flu in 2 hospital patients with atypical pneumonia, and it wanted Shi's renowned laboratory to investigate. The reason I bring this up, guys, is because this research has been going on for at least 5 years now. We have Bill Gates on the record talking about this in 2015. Shi Zhengli also has been doing research on this since that time. And then when asked about it, guys, this is from the Bolt report. I just took a screen grab of the screen here, and this is the only thing I can find from this. Beer flu origins. I swear with my life, the virus has nothing to do with the lab. This coming from Shi Zhengli when she was asked if this virus could have been manufactured in the lab. Now, I want to bring you back to this Scientific American article here from June 2020, and let me just read you this. She, a virologist who is often called China's Batwoman by her colleagues because of her virus hunting expeditions in bat caves for over the past 16 years, walked out of the conference she was attending in Shanghai and hopped onto the next train back to Wuhan. I wondered if the Municipal Health Authority got it wrong, she says. I had never expected this kind of thing to happen in Wuhan in central China. Her studies had shown that the southern subtropical provinces of Guangdong, Guangxi, and Yunnan have the greatest risk of beer flus jumping from humans to animals, particularly bats, a known reservoir. If the beer flu were the culprit, and guys, this is where it gets really interesting, she remembers thinking, could they have come from our lab? Later on this year, she says, "I swear with my life the virus has nothing to do with the lab." Okay, so maybe she changed her mind, maybe something else came up, but it does get you wondering what the truth really is. Did the government have a stern talking to her? Maybe, letting her know, you can't say this, or else. I don't know, guys. Again, this is speculative. I'm just bringing you this information as I found it. Well, we also have Dr. Judy Mikowitz. This is from a documentary that didn't get wide release because of the controversial topic matter. She is basically saying that this was created in a lab, that there is no doubt about it. Let me play you guys this clip here.
So it's very clear this virus was manipulated. This family of viruses was manipulated and studied in a laboratory where the animals were taken into the laboratory. And this is what was released, whether deliberate or not. That cannot be naturally occurring. Somebody didn't go to a market, get a bat. The virus didn't jump directly to humans. That's not how it works. That's accelerated viral evolution. If it was a natural occurrence, it would take it up to 800 years to occur. This occurred from SARS-1 within a decade. That's not naturally occurring.
That's not naturally occurring. This coming from another medical professional, Dr. Judy Mikowitz. So why would China be doing this? Some are suggesting it could be biological warfare. Others suggest it's just China's effort to prove to the world that they have clout in the discipline of virology. For whatever reason, it got released, and I think it's pretty clear by now that China didn't tell the world until it was too late. They knew about it, but they didn't tell the rest of the world about it. Now again, you can get even deeper into this. I don't know, is it a conspiracy? Was it done on purpose? Of course, everybody's going to have their own opinion on this, so I urge you to do your own research. And if you find any other information that I may have missed, put it down in the comment section. Okay, so this then brings us to Event 201, which I have mentioned in the past. Now, Event 201 was held in October 2019, and it was basically sponsored by Johns Hopkins University, the World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Here is Event 201, their webpage here, centerforhealthsecurity.org. You guys can see Event 201 was a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise. Again, guys, also happened before the outbreak. But it was a tabletop exercise that simulated a series of dramatic scenario-based facilitated discussions confronting difficult, true-to-life dilemmas associated with the response of a hypothetical but scientifically plausible pandemic. 15 global businesses, governments, and public health leaders were players in the simulation exercise that highlighted unresolved real-world policy and economic issues that could be solved with sufficient political will, financial investment, and attention now and in the future. Here's where the Ripple connection comes in, guys. So we have Johns Hopkins University, the WEF, World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Well, we know this just happened, guys. Swell 2020, the World Economic Forum, Sheila Warren, was the keynote speaker at Ripple's Swell Global 2020 conference, the one that just happened online just last month. There are also other connections, and I have gone in depth into detail on some of these connections in former videos. We also have heard of this, guys, how Bill Gates is using cryptocurrency Ripple to fight global poverty. This was from January 2020, earlier this year. So we know the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation definitely does have a connection to Ripple and XRP. Despite all this, though, guys, it's about the private and public partnerships to reduce economic and societal consequences of a pandemic. Private and public partnerships, Ripple, obviously a private company, and bodies like the World Economic Forum helping to foster these relationships. How do we leverage blockchain technology? How do we use Ripple's XRP in order to make money move more easily? There's all that, and of course I've talked about that ad nauseum in previous videos that I've released on this channel. This video is more about this theory, the Great Reset, how RippleNet and XRP are going to be integrated in that, and the connection of all these main players, and how it's looking scary, guys. And you know why I think that? Let me keep going and I'll show you. So we've got this smug-looking Bill Gates here, connected to Ripple. Obviously, he did his TED Talk back in 2015, so a virology expert, I put in quotes, because he's not a doctor. And here's where it gets really weird, guys. So I was on this website. This is the European Patent Office website, and I was doing a search for this term here. You can read it. We've heard about it for the last 7.5 months now. When I did some deeper dives, guys, I found this. So it's that search term, the beer flu, with this company called Purebright, beer flu Purebright, and this is from, again, the European Patent Office. So these are patents not in the United States, but in Europe. Purebright Institute, the beer flu. Purebright Institute, the beer flu. One's for a chimeric protein, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. One's for attenuated infectious bronchitis virus. And one here just says beer flu right up here. So who is this company, Purebright? Guys, when you do more research, you will find, and this is just a Google search for Purebright up here, who are they linked to? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Are you really surprised? So this New World Order, Bill Gates, obviously part of this, in deep with this, guys. There's also this, and again, I did that video on that, and you can watch that video there. Gonna bring this up because down here, I just wanted to show you this quote from this particular website. Good digital ID is too important not to get right. Over 1 billion individuals worldwide accessing basic goods and services is difficult, if not impossible, due to a lack of recognized identification. With good digital identity, individuals could use credentials issued from a variety of different institutions in order to gain access to a variety of different services, while preserving privacy and security and maintaining control over their information. Guys, this has to do with microchipping, probably one of the scariest points of all of this. What I mention in this video here describes how Bill Gates, and yes, he is indeed connected to this ID 2020 project, implanting microchips into humans in order to be able to trace us all, guys. And what better time to do this than during a pandemic? Why let a perfectly good crisis go to waste? Now, there is no evidence that this is happening right this second. Although, here's what is happening. Guys, I saw this from XRP Boo Boo on Twitter. This is where it gets really, really scary. Now, here is a leaked email dated October 10th, 2020, and it was from a committee member within the Liberal Party of Canada. This is what's happening in Canada. I want to provide you some very important information. I'm a committee member with the Liberal Party of Canada. I sit within several committee groups, but the information I'm providing is originating from the Strategic Planning Committee, which is steered by the PMO. I need to start by saying that I'm not happy doing this, but I have to. As a Canadian, and more importantly, as a parent who wants a better future not only for my children, but for other children as well. The other reason I'm doing this is because roughly 30% of the committee members are not pleased with the direction this will take Canada, but our opinions have been ignored and they plan on moving forward towards their goals. They have also made it very clear that nothing will stop the planned outcomes. The roadmap and aim was set out by the PMO and is as follows. Phase in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding outward. This is expected by November 2020. Now, I can tell you guys for a fact that major metropolitan areas in Canada right now have seen more strict lockdown measures because they are telling Canadians that the numbers are going up. Let me keep going though. Rush the acquisition of or construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory, expected by December 2020. Now, doesn't that sound scary? Isolation facilities across every province and territory? Let me continue. Daily new cases of the beer flu will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in beer flu-related deaths following the same growth curves, expected by the end of November 2020. Complete the total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first, and second rolling phase restrictions, expected by the end of December 2020 or early 2021, January. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into a universal basic income program, expected by Q1 2021. So what she's saying here is that Canada is going to start a universal basic income program. Well, that doesn't sound bad, does it? Or does it? Let me continue. Projected beer flu mutations and or co-infection with secondary virus, referred to as the C word, COVID 21, we'll call it beer flu 21 from here on out, leading to a third wave and a much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection expected by February 2021. Daily new cases of beer flu 21 hospitalizations and beer flu 19 and beer flu 21 related deaths will exceed medical care facility capacity. This is expected Q1 to Q2 2021. Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as the third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, expected Q2 2021. Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program. This is expected for mid-Q2 2021. Projected supply chain breaks down. Inventory shortages, large economic instability, expected late Q2 2021. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas, as well as all major roadways to establish travel checkpoints, restrict travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area, expected by Q3 2021. Guys, this is getting more dystopic as I continue to read. Along with that provided roadmap, the Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavor, one that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of Canadians. What we were told was that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. Okay, that sounds good, right? Not so right. And so this is what's going to happen, guys. Listen to this. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, okay? So mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc., which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. The individual would also have to agree to partake in the Beer Flu 19 and Beer Flu 21 vaccination schedule, which would provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living, even under a full lockdown, through the use of photo identification referred to as Canada's Health Pass. Committee members asked who would become the owner of the forfeited property and assets in that scenario and what would happen to lenders or financial institutions. We were simply told the World Debt Reset Program will handle all of the details. Several committee members also questioned what would happen to individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program or the Health Pass or the vaccination schedule, and the answer we got was very troubling. Essentially, we were told that it was our duty to make sure we came up with a plan to ensure that that would never happen. We were told that it was in the individual's best interest to participate. When several committee members pushed relentlessly to get an answer, we were told that those who refused would first live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely, and that over a short period of time, as more Canadians transitioned into the debt forgiveness program, the ones who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities. Isolation facilities! Do you guys remember learning about World War II back in high school history? Not far off. So once in those facilities, they would be given two options: to participate in the debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have their assets seized. So you can imagine, after hearing all of this, it turned into quite the heated discussion and escalated. Yeah, heated to say the least, and escalated beyond anything I've ever witnessed before. In the end, it was implied by the PMO that the whole agenda will move forward no matter who agrees or who does not, that it won't just be Canada, but in fact all nations will have similar roadmaps and agendas, that we need to take advantage of the situation before us to promote change on the grander scale for the betterment of everyone. The members who were opposed and the ones who brought up key issues that would arise from such a thing were completely ignored. Our opinions and concerns were ignored. We were simply told to just do it. So guys, a lot of things here, and this is happening in Canada, but these isolation facilities, there's no proof of that, is there? Here's a video from Canadian Parliament, guys. Let me play you this real quick.
In my supplemental question yesterday, I asked this government if the people of Ontario should prepare for internment camps. In September, the federal government posted a call for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide, and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained. Surely this government is aware of the intentions to build these isolation camps from coast to coast. And my question to the Premier is, how many of these camps will be built, and how many people does this government expect to detain?
So they mention these camps in Parliament. Guys, I went to do some more research here, and down here there was a link to the tender notice, the actual RFP, I believe it's called, the contract basically to build these camps. And of course, this is the Government of Canada's website. It was deleted. Now, this was from a few weeks ago now, so I had to go back to the Wayback Machine, and sure enough, when you put that URL in the Wayback Machine, you do see an RFP, service provider for federal quarantine/isolation sites. The publication date on here was September 17th, and the amendment date October 13th, the date closing October 19th, so it has been deleted since then. But they did exist. They were on the Government of Canada's official website. Not only that, guys, I've been seeing this on Facebook. I recently just saw this on my own personal Facebook feed, and I thought I'd bring this up to you. Live debt-free now. Government registration to allow Canadians with over $10,000 in debt can reduce it to up to 80% without bankruptcy, and this is under the Ontario Debt-Free-Program.ca, giving Canadians debt forgiveness now. You see where this is all going, guys? It looks to me like they are pushing this agenda. They realize a lot of people are out of work. They realize the beer flu has hit the economy hard. And some of these countries, like Canada, are planning for a way to provide citizens with a UBI, which, as per this email, was suggested that was going to be paid for by the International Monetary Fund. And the only thing Canadians have to do is give up the right to own assets forever. Now, does that sound scary to you? But it's just Canadians. You know, this will never come to the United States of America. Well, guys, here's another video, and this is from New Zealand, also setting up quarantine camps. Let me play you this video.
As part of our overall national response to this new outbreak, I am now directing medical officers of health that all cases, confirmed cases, are to be managed in a quarantine facility. Now, this is different to how positive cases were managed when we were last at levels 4 and indeed 3, and shows how serious we are about limiting any risk of ongoing transmission, even in self-isolation and including to others in the household. This will apply to any cases and also close family members who might be at risk as appropriate. A reminder, these facilities have been set up specifically and have excellent processes and resources in place to look after people with COVID-19, including health staff on site at all times, and it will help us avoid any further inadvertent spread into the community as part of our overall response.
If someone refuses in our facilities to be tested, they have to keep staying. So they won't be able to leave after 14 days. They have to stay on for another 14 days. So it's a pretty good incentive. You either get your tests done and make sure you're cleared, or we will keep you in a facility longer. So I think most people will look at that and say, I'll take the test. I've got a number of questions about people refuse. What do we do if someone refuses to be tested? Well, they can't now. If someone refuses in our facilities to be tested, they have to keep staying. So they won't be able to leave after 14 days. They have to stay on for another 14 days. So it's a pretty good incentive. You either get your tests done and make sure you're cleared, or we will keep you in a facility longer. So I think most people will look at that and say, I'll take the test.
Boy, happening in Canada, happening in New Zealand. What makes you think it can't happen in the United States of America? And then there's this, guys, more people talking about that commercial I did a video on back a few days ago now. I'll link it up here in the top right-hand corner. This from the Digital Asset Investor, the WEF, or the World Economic Forum commercial, where they said you won't own anything and you'll be happy, creep me out. They weren't joking. Here is somebody here talking about that same video.
They're talking about things like they don't want us to own property anymore. We're not going to own anything. It will be provided for us. Well, who does own the property? Who's renting it out to us? Some sort of shadowy elite. This is a takeover by the technocrats. And I urge anyone who thinks that this is a kind of conspiracy theory to do a bit of background reading. The Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, combined with UN Agenda 2030, as it's now called, is a complete transformation of our societies around the world on lines I would call communist or fascist. I mean, frankly, what's the...
So there you guys have it, a takeover by the technocrats. And what they're calling it is Agenda 2030. He's referring to this, guys. The agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace in larger freedom. You guys see how this narrative is going? This from sustainabledevelopment.un.org. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. We are resolved to free the human race from the tyranny of poverty and want to heal and secure our planet. They are pushing the environmental angle on this. Chances are this is why we are seeing Ripple and XRP specifically touted as a very, very environmentally friendly cryptocurrency. I mean, that's not a bad thing. Also, they're pulling on our heartstrings. They're saying that every country needs to be involved in this in order for this to succeed. And you know who's going to be the only guy with any chance to stop this? Again, guys, this is not a political channel. I'm just bringing you guys the evidence as I've seen it before me. Finally, one last connection with XRP and the New World Order. Guys, this from XRP Darren at Fame21More on Twitter. ZERPs equal NWO bucks. Here's just a funny little video of Brad Garlinghouse.
We certainly want to see banks succeed in this New World Order. We certainly want to see banks succeed in this New World Order.
So is this New World Order going to happen? Is the Great Reset basically a fait accompli? It sounds to me like XRP is going to be at the center of this, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.